Welcome back, YouTube and other viewers of the whiteboard marker drawing series. Today, we are diving into a critical topic. It is sitting here, it is September 2nd. We are staring Q4 in the face, and everybody is trying to make a decision and a plan around their forecast for e-commerce. So what I'm going to talk about today is how we think about and approach e-commerce forecasting. And I'm going to include a link in the comments below to the template that we use for forecasting. So while this is directly applicable and we're going to think about some of the implications of Q4 2020, this is a broader idea about how to think through e-commerce forecasting. And we're doing it today through a metaphor. And the metaphor is a layer cake. So everyone loves cake, right? So this is our frosting layer here. And this layer cake, the e-commerce revenue cake, comes in 3 layers. Okay, that's my filling there. All right. So this is my layer cake. We're going to do some little candles here because it's nice and fun. So this is my revenue cake, and it comes in layers. Revenue cake. All right. When you think about revenue, forecasting revenue, there are 3 layers that are foundational to deciding this. And one of the things I want you to understand about this cake is that what we are looking for is we want to build on a foundation that is the most predictable possible. So one of the important things is that variability or predictability decreases as you move up. So variability goes down, or variability increases as you move up the cake. This layer you should have way less confidence in than this layer, than this layer. Okay? So let's talk about what each of these are. The foundational layer of any e-commerce forecast comes from your existing customer base. Okay? So that is the foundation of your revenue. So if I am predicting, let's say I'm trying to make a revenue prediction about Q4. Okay? What I want to begin with is the amount of revenue I can expect from the previous month's cohorts. So October of this year, and as we sit here, September, and even August that you sit in now, let's say every time you acquire a set of customers in August, let's say you did $100,000 in August. That group of customers, if you go back, and Corey, I know you hate when I edit, but if you could throw up our LTV video, go watch this. This will talk about this principle. This group of customers adds value in all of the subsequent months. Let's say it's another 30K in September, 15K in October, 8K, et cetera, et cetera. And so this revenue that comes from the August cohort, the group of customers that you just acquired last month, already is going to yield revenue in future months. And in September and October, you're going to acquire another set of customers, and they're going to yield that same amount of revenue in the future. And then in October, you're going to have another set of customers, and they're going to yield revenue into the future. And this revenue is the most predictable, especially if you have cohort-specific LTV data. So you want to use cohort, and the cohort being time, LTV data to form the foundation for predicting the base layer of your future revenue. The existing customer set is going to produce future revenue for you in a way that is subject to very little volatility, especially if you have a long customer history and you can look at your monthly, your LTV by month, and you can see how much revenue the customers that you acquire in August and September, et cetera, will yield for you in the future months. So this existing customer set, this is the most predictable. This is the foundation that forms the base. So in this case, if I look back and I'm like, oh, okay, well, here's November, right, and here's December. All of this revenue that I'm acquiring, I'm going to add it all up, and that's going to be the foundation of my forecast. From there, I'm going to look to what we call owned audiences. Okay? These are channels where I can speak to customers for free. So I'll give you some examples. So these are emails of people that are not yet customers. Okay? They are then SMS numbers of not yet customers. It is organic search keywords that I own. And then ultimately social. Okay, so these are channels where I can speak to people for free in a way that does not subject to the volatility of CPMs or of the ad market. So what I can do is I can make predictions based on the number of emails, the strategy I have to send, and the dollars per send. And I can get to a revenue projection from there. Same thing for SMS. Same thing for social posts, right? It's just simply outline your strategy, make a prediction about the revenue per send, and that gives you the next layer of the forecast, the next layer of your cake. And then the other one that I want to talk about, because people don't think about organic search as an owned audience, okay? I want you to think about a keyword, not a branded keyword here, okay? I want you to think about a categorical keyword. Let's say, for a simple example, it's boots, okay? And right now, you have the 4th placement on boots. And for simple math, boots gets 10,000 searches a month. Your 4th position yields 15%. Again, just using some estimates here of clicks. That gets you 1,500 clicks a month. Those convert at, you can look this up in GA. Let's just say it's, for again, simple math, 2%. That's 300 purchases. Okay? So every keyword that you know that you have good placement on is an owned audience. You own that placement. You own the ability to speak to that. So you can look at the keyword volume, the keyword trends for those terms to determine how much revenue you think you're going to get in future months from those channels. And the very top layer of the cake, the one that is subject to the most volatility. Now remember, email response rates, SMS response rates, keyword volume, social responses, you're getting into an area of predictability where the volatility is increasing. You are less likely to be specifically accurate here. And then the last layer is paid acquisition. And this is the channel, especially as we head into Q4 of 2020, where there's the most volatility. There are things like CPMs that we don't understand, right? Like, what is the CPM going to be, right? What is the conversion rate on my ads going to be? How are people going to respond to my offer? These are all things that we don't know and are subject to factors outside of our control. So you still have to go through the process of predicting the amount of money that you're going to spend and then the CAC on that spend to get you a target rev from paid, and it's important. But you have to understand that it's going to be the most volatile portion and the one I want to depend on the least. So what I want is layer cakes where the biggest slice comes from the most predictable piece. Businesses that are going to struggle in Q4 are going to be in instances where their cake looks like this, where they have an upside down cake, as I call it, where this is existing customers, where this is owned, and where this is paid. This is going to be subject to high volatility. The upside down cake equals extreme volatility. So you want to start to think about your business as understanding the cohorts and what they're worth to you over time, where you can get owned audiences, and there are other things like if you have a blog that generates a bunch of traffic, right? If you have a YouTube audience, that's part of social. These are all other owned channels where you can drive traffic from in a predictable fashion, and you can speak to them as many times as possible. So the key here with this forecasting is to build this channel forecast basically from the ground up, starting with the customers that you already have and what they'll yield for you, and then moving up the cake from there. If you look below at that link for the Lightspeed Ventures did this awesome forecasting model that we have adapted and continued to use for all of our clients here at CTC that will allow you to pull in your data for the cohort-specific LTV data to use for a forecast to build future revenue. I recommend that you check it out. And what you're going to need is you're going to need that cohort-specific LTV data. So this is my initial tease. If you go to growthdata.commonthreadco.com, you can sign up for early access to our cohort-specific LTV data tool. It's going to be coming out here in the next little while that will help you think about building this foundation and filling out that spreadsheet to help you forecast for Q4. But the key when you're dealing with a volatile environment is to try to remove dependence upon factors you don't control. Remove dependence upon Facebook. Remove dependence on areas where you don't have control of what's going to happen in a macroeconomic environment. Then the other thing I'll just consider specifically, this is a Q4 consideration, Q4 20 consideration, is that if you think about the inputs that will make you wrong, think about all the ways in which you're going to be wrong with this. One of them is shipping costs. Okay? So we don't understand yet what USPS's availability is going to be, and there's a lot of talk that the shipping costs could be higher. The question is, what does that do to your conversion rate? And so I would build this out whenever time you're building, anytime you're building a forecasting model, I want you to think about it in terms of scenarios, right? Where you can begin to understand the inputs that will be affected in the environment. So if shipping costs go up and conversion rate goes down, what does that do to your overall cake or your overall revenue? Other things to consider is that if retail remains closed, so let's say the pandemic persists, retail remains closed, okay, then online demand is going to go up. We've seen that happen, right? Then demand will be increased. So these things are implications that have effects on each other. And as you begin to think about the connections between the different issues that may affect Q4, you can build scenarios in your forecast. And here's the secret with a forecast. It is not what you're looking to is you're not trying to be right. That's the key, okay? You're trying to build a forecast to understand where you are importantly wrong, okay? What this forecast is going to allow you to do is as you begin to actualize the revenue, you can understand where you missed and what you need to do about it. A forecast is a trellis on which you can build your revenue. You're not trying to be right. You're trying to be directionally accurate so that you can find out where you are importantly wrong. I want you to remember that as you're building it. Good luck baking your cake. If you have questions, I'm eager to engage with you in the comments. Play around with that spreadsheet, make a copy, and see if you can fill it out for your business and if it helps you to think about how to forecast more accurately.